Supervisor Matt Dorsey, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Of course, Matt Dorsey is the recently appointed District 6 Supervisor who oversees the Soma, Mission Bay, South Beach, and Treasure Island neighborhoods. We're here to talk about some of the challenges that the neighborhood faces, but also some of the things that are worth celebrating. Can you tell us where we are right now? Why did you choose this location?
So we're at Harvest Urban Market, and this is run by my friend Gil Desaunier, who I've known, I think for the almost 20 years that he's been here. I was working at City Hall before I lived here, and when he opened, this used to be a lunch spot that we would come to.
How would you describe this part of the city to someone who doesn't live in San Francisco?
I think this is a vibrant and ever-changing area. It's got nightlife, it's got manufacturing, long-term legacy businesses. There's been a lot of change, and I think COVID was one of those changes. This is, to me, the real promise of what the future of San Francisco should be in terms of what I would call authentically progressive urbanism. Density, a place where you don't need to own a car, there's access to transit, there's a lot of bike lanes, and there's some public safety challenges that I know the neighbors are concerned about, and I think a lot of the business community is concerned about. How many years have you been here?
Since
1985.
1985.
Wow. And how has the neighborhood changed in the last?
See the truth, I'm scared.
All right.
Before, I can open the store and close by myself. Open and close by myself.
But it's-
no problem. Now I'm always afraid. Because you don't know. You're gonna come in crazy people.
I never see like any actual, like very seldom any arrests made. They kind of just move things around. They just move around in a circle, but the problem just moves. It doesn't actually get neutralized.
70 years old, and I had to, he worked for me. He's my caregiver.
Okay.
I had to take him with me to the park to take my dog to the park because I don't feel safe. I got attacked a couple times. I got stabbed.
Oh my God.
I spent 12, 13 hours here. This is home,
Yeah.
away from home. And I don't feel safe, honestly. We need help. The whole neighborhood needs help.
What are the biggest concerns you've heard from residents in this area?
I wouldn't say it's new, but it is worse, is some of the open-air drug scenes and the brazen drug dealing. There are some people who feel that the mayor's Tenderloin Emergency Initiative pushed some of that into the south of Market. I think in fairness, there was a lot of that already here, but never at the scale that it's been going on in the last year or two. There's also something new that I haven't seen in the 12 years that I've been here, which is there's violence associated with it, and I think the suspicion is that a lot of this comes from the level of drug scenes and drug dealing and the kinds of stuff that we've been seeing in this neighborhood.
I want to repeat back to you a quote that I think has resonated with a lot of people in the recovery community. You've said a few times, we need to meet people where they're at, but make sure we're not leaving them there. With that in mind, I wonder what your thoughts are on the city's diversion programs.
Generally speaking, I'm for diversion programs. I don't think it's helpful to have people sitting in jail as a punishment. I don't think that reflects our city's values. I don't think it represents the kind of 21st century policing, procedural justice, restorative justice kind of models that we should be pursuing. But I think San Franciscans have a right to expect that whatever programs we're doing are doing something to accomplish breaking the cycle of recidivism, getting people into treatment, even if it has to be coerced there. So I'm in favor of it. I just want to make sure that it works. I think that's where San Franciscans are too.
Being surrounded by drug use on the streets can present obstacles for people in recovery. Do you have any plans to create a more safe space for people who might not be able to walk past somebody smoking or doing drugs on the street?
I have struggled with substance use disorder for much of my life. When I see people out there, I'm not ready to give up on anybody. I work for a city that is a $13 billion enterprise. We're leading the nation in our response on COVID, but we're not getting it together well enough to do better by the people who are suffering from drug addiction on our streets and too often losing their lives. I'm hoping that the city will do more on things like supervised consumption facilities. I think right now, one of the biggest obstacles is going to be how do we convince neighbors to welcome this into the neighborhood? And I think the way that we're going to have to change the incentive structure about this is to say, well, we're going to designate this block as a right to recovery block. If people are coming in here and they're going to be doing in a safe environment where they can use drugs, I think that's good. The drugs are so deadly. We want to fulfill the promise of harm reduction by having a supervised consumption facility. But if we're not making sure that people aren't doing drugs outside of the facility or selling drugs outside of the facility, we're going to lose the support of the neighborhood, and it's never going to get done. So I think it's got to be better carrots and better sticks.
What do you want your legacy to be on the Soma neighborhood and the rest of District 6?
I hope that we are a neighborhood that people look at as a model for what their neighborhood became to. That, yeah, we could have density and we could accommodate sober living environments and, you know, a sobering center and the kinds of diversity that we have here. I hope we see that elsewhere, and I hope people say District 6 did it right, and we took our lead from that. I think the other thing is sort of a personal, when I asked Mayor Breed to consider me, I gave a lot of thought to how open I was going to be about being a person who's an addict and being a person who has struggled with substance use disorder in my life. I was prepared for how I was going to talk about my personal journey publicly. What I hadn't prepared for was how I was going to talk about my public role privately in a recovery meeting, in a personal setting where it's people I've known for years who've been through hell. I got a call from one of those people who said to me that he said, now we've got a seat at the table. It was terrifying. It was inspiring. But it was also telling to me that there's a lot of people out there who see having somebody who's on the Board of Supervisors, who has their story, as a reason maybe they can have hope. So I'm hoping maybe that's part of my legacy too. We'll see.